Hey there guys, Matthew here from The Who Addicts, bringing you guys another review from Doctor Who Series 10, where myself, Liv and Jacob Martin sit down and chat about Episode 7, The Pyramid at the End of the World. So sit back and enjoy. So then, here we are with our review of Episode 7 of Doctor Who Series 10. An episode with a very long title, so I'm going to give it the title that I have dubbed it in my notes. Today we are going to be reviewing Tupati Otwa.
What an abbreviation that is.
Otwa. That's a fantastic abbreviation.
That's brilliant.
Or if we're going to go off Liv's notes, Primid, because she can't spell. Nevertheless, unless you've got a cool abbreviation, Jacob, to go with, we'll crack on with our initial thoughts. You got nothing? No?
No.
No, that's a bit boring, isn't it? So, who wants to go first with their initial thoughts of Tupati Otwa, in other words, the pyramid at the end of the world? Who wants to go first? Jacob can go first. Yes, Jacob?
Okay. Well, as a whole, I did like this episode, and I'm obviously not going to go too much in depth with what I thought, because obviously we're going to speak about it and go further in depth, but as a whole, I liked it, and it was a good, kind of middle part of the three-parter, I think. It definitely developed more than Extremis did for me. But yeah, I thought it was a really strong episode.
Yeah, on first watch, I felt like I was just kind of going through the motions. I didn't really take it all in. But on a second rewatch, I really, 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 really liked it. Really liked it. I found it much more enjoyable than Extremis. It wasn't as jarring. It was a much easier watch, but I don't think it would have took much, to be honest. But what I found really interesting is, listening back to our preview, we were theorising about the episode, making up so many different complex theories of what could possibly happen, and expecting another episode that might be a little bit confusing. But if anything, it was the opposite, and it was a lot more straightforward than I think we predicted. So I really, really enjoyed it. What about you, Liv?
I absolutely loved it. Right from the beginning, right till the end, I was hooked right all the way through. Not confusing, and just amazing. I really loved it.
Yeah.
Now, Liv, what I know in the preview you had quite a bit of a problem with the whole parallel plot thing going on.
Yeah.
What did you enjoy it in this episode?
Yes, a lot more.
Thank God for that.
A lot more, because the thing with this episode was so not confusing. Like in Bell. So like with the last one, it really was.
Yeah, I mean, every aspect of the story kind of had a place, and I think the problem with Extremis is there was a lot of bits on the end that were just there, and they only really confused the story further instead of add something extra to it. Whereas I think in this episode, every scene, every character had a meaning. They all contributed to the plot, and it didn't feel like any part of the episode was meaningless. If you were to take it away, it would have had an impact on the story. So, especially with the parallel plot. At first, as you would, I was a little bit bewildered as to what was going on and what it meant. But once at the end of the episode, when it all come together, it came together perfectly, made perfect sense, and was actually really clever. I mean, there was just like the small details, like was it Erica? Like that small scene at the start where her reading glasses get broke. That ends up being a pivotal moment when at the end of the episode, when the Doctor can't see the code to open the door, because he could have asked her, he could have got a mirror, he could have got anything to try and see if she could see what he was, but she wouldn't have because she didn't have her reading glasses. Just tiny details like that came full circle, and every part of this episode ended up meaning something, which I thought was brilliant.
Yeah, what do you think about the setting for this story? Because obviously we've some episodes have been set on Earth, and some of them have been set in space and whatever, but this one seems quite more modern day, if that makes sense. And obviously with Peter Harness in the Zygon version, we also had a setting quite similar to this. So what do you think about that?
I thought it was really good. I mean, we noticed a lot of similarities in the Next Time trailer, etc., when we were talking in the preview. And you could see that again. I mean, it was another rather political episode, another Earthbound story that was very modern once again. I think they're definitely playing to Peter Harness's strengths. I couldn't have thought of another writer that could have maybe pulled this off as well. And what I will say is, one thing that we were worried about in the preview was the fact that Stephen Moffat was co-writing it, and that, like The Girl Who Died and other episodes, that might be a problem because you could kind of tell when Moffat was trying to squeeze things into The Girl Who Died. But I honestly could not pick out one Moffat trope, as they are called, in this episode. It honestly felt like him, Moffat and Harness sat down and coherently written this episode, worked together, and that's exactly what I wanted. But yeah, the setting of it was really good, and the pyramid mystery, again, we were theorising like crazy on what it could be.
I was right.
You were right.
I did say it was going to be a spaceship.
Indeed. But how it involved all the other military personnel was clever. It was quite the fact that it was just on the border of all these three countries as well.
I have to say that in this episode, I really thought that the supportive cast were excellent. All of them were, and each one had a purpose in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
because I found like in other episodes, in like Knock Knock and other episodes, the supporting cast hasn't. It's not been the acting that's been the problem. It's just that the characters haven't really had anything to them. And even though the military characters didn't actually have obviously, because we thought they were going to be a massive pivotal part of the plot, but in the end it obviously wasn't. But even in the part they did play, they did seem to have quite a bit of importance.
Yeah, and they gave the episode importance as well.
They did.
Because they were built up to be these massive military figures who were in charge of their respective armies and countries. And although we were only told this in like throwaway lines, I think it was partly the way they were written, partly how they were performed by the actors. They really did come across like very important people.
They did.
And that led to when obviously they were killed, it honestly did make you gasp and think, oh my god, the chief operating officer of the Chinese military has just been killed right in front of me. They weren't just silly average characters who you thought were just meaningless and you were like, oh, well, they've been killed. You generally thought, oh my god, a very important person's just been killed.
And that also added to the threat of the monks as well, because obviously we hadn't really seen them do anything, majorly damaging or anything, but now we've seen that they're not afraid to kill. It kind of gives them a bit more of a threat.
Oh, massively, yeah.
I mean, what did we all think of the monks in this? I mean, I thought again. they were better again.
Terrific.
I mean, the passive aggressive nature in which they go about their business, they threaten.
They're also so creepy with it, though.
Yeah.
You look at them, and then and then all of a sudden you are in a way scared of them.
Yeah, you are. It's the passive aggressive nature that it sort of it makes them even more intimidating. I mean, it goes with their look as well.
Yeah, definitely.
They don't have any emotion, and they threaten in their own sort of way. I mean, I will admit the way that they were offering to help, this whole power to consent thing. I was a little bit unsure on that. I mean, I don't know if that wasn't fully explained. I don't know if I didn't really get my head around that. It did make them seem a little bit creepy the way that, obviously, if they see someone in power, but then, like that, I think, was he the leader of the Chinese, or I can't quite remember, but he was killed because he was scared. And they didn't. That's not what they needed. So they disposed of him. I mean, I think the only thing missing from the monks is a motive. Really, is a reason for why they are wanting to do what they're doing.
See, I liked that. I actually because obviously in last week's episode, I kind of thought that was a bit of a criticism of them, and that we don't actually know what their kind of motives are. But I think actually now looking at it, I quite like that we don't fully know what they want to do. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, it kind of keeps you intrigued,
It
hoping
does.
that you'll find out next
Yeah.
week. I mean, if we don't find out next week, I think it will be a bit of a blemish on them as a villain, in my opinion, anyway. But I certainly am interested into why they're doing what they're doing, and if there is a greater power behind them. I mean, we heard about this demon that created the simulated world in last week's episode. I mean, we've still not heard of who this demon
No,
could
true, we
be.
haven't.
Obviously, in the preview, we were chatting about if monks have different ranks. That wasn't explained, or that wasn't explained in the episode. So I don't know if that will mean anything or not. But one thing that really did come across with the monks for me is they truly felt unstoppable.
Oh, they did.
I mean, we were saying that Extremis would be judged on the episodes that followed it. And I can safely say so far it's been judged very well, because the whole simulated world thing that we got in Extremis kind of came into this. It worked with this episode because it showed that the monks were planning for the world's future. They knew pretty much everything about the Earth, and that allowed them to predict its future, to know every outcome, and it honestly made them seem like an absolutely unstoppable force. So when Bill was confronting them at the end, when the Doctor was confronting them, I was scared for their lives. And you can't really say that about every villain now in
No.
Doctor Who.
Talking about Bill there, I honestly think that this episode was Bill's best episode.
Really?
I really
Yeah.
do think it was. Because you also have to factor in account like last week's episode. She didn't have a lot to do. And above all, in this episode, she had loads to do, and well, it worked brilliantly. I adored her in this
Yeah.
episode.
I'm with you there, Liv, because I've actually got my notes. How I did pick up as well how Bill in this episode, it seemed like she had something to do, and like you said, in the last couple of episodes, we did pick up on how she seemed to be taking a bit of a back seat, but this episode she did seem, well, she saved the Doctor's eyesight and saved.
Yeah.
Well, she might have actually saved the whole world or actually made the whole world be screwed. But yeah, I think Bill was much more better in this episode. Would you agree,
Yeah.
Matthew? Or
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know, when you said best episode, I don't know about best episode,
I'm not sure. Yeah.
because I think up until the very end, that's when I really started to enjoy her in there. I mean, I'm not saying I didn't enjoy her in this. I mean, I think, again, for the first part, I mean, yeah, she was, butting into conversations, giving her opinion, a much more human side of things, trying to, when the Doctor at the start was sort of taking an all-out attack sort of procedure, she was offering the more humane approach on things, saying, well, can't we just see if peace will prevail, sort of thing. So yeah, she's definitely better than she was last week. I still look back at episodes like the pilot, Thin Ice, maybe,
Oh, yeah.
and Oxygen. I think she was maybe all around better in them, but I think her best scene and her best moment came in this episode at the very end.
Yeah.
When of course the Doctor was put in a very interesting predicament, which I'm sure we'll get onto. And she basically took it upon herself, after seeing these officials die before her, she took it upon herself to face them on her own, put her entire life on the line just to get the Doctor's sight back, just because she knows how important he is to this human race. So best performance, I'm not sure. Best scene, though, definitely. I mean, it takes some guts to confront Thug Monk. I mean, the way
obviously.
Thug Monk nicked that plane, he picked up a submarine, he just plonked it in the ground.
There's no stopping Thug Monk.
There's no stopping Thug Monk. Thug Monk and his gang right
Go on,
there.
Thug Monk.
I think the best performance goes to Thug Monk.
Indeed, yeah.
I'm terrified of him.
But going back to Bill, I did. Obviously, we'll talk about it more in the preview, but it does look like next week will be quite a big episode for Bill as well.
Yeah.
So I'm just happy to see that Bill isn't getting underused for the next few episodes.
Yeah, any worry that we may have had last week
It's
has
gone.
diminished completely. It's cast out of our minds now.
So then, the Doctor.
The Doctor.
Because again in my notes, I also said that I also think that this episode was also the Doctor's best episode. The speeches he had, where he was going, and his commanding side to the officials, and him confronting the monks. I thought it was terrific.
Yeah.
I really did.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
blame you, because I mean, I do agree that, especially when in that one of the first scenes when the Doctor was just playing his guitar in the TARDIS, I thought that speech was really quite nice, even though it was subtle and it didn't necessarily mean a lot. I thought it was quite a nice little scene, and also obviously having the Doctor President thing return, I did quite like that. But yeah, I think again, I wouldn't know if I'd say it's the Doctor's best episode yet in the series. I'm not really sure what would be, but I think again his character was quite strong in this episode.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to find what episode's Capaldi's best, because he's just that
And
good.
that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, he's that good in
really.
all of them. You know, he is so good in every story he's in. I find it hard to separate any of his performances because they're all just at such a high standard. But there's no denying he was absolutely brilliant again in this. I agree. The way he took command of these people who are apparently in charge of their country, and he just takes them in his stride. The way that he confronts the monks and who's standing up to them, like I said earlier, the way he took an all-out attack approach. That stubborn, just wanting to get the job done sort of 12th Doctor is definitely back. There's no messing around with him. So that 100% rebel Time Lord that we were mentioned is still very much there.
And even though he's blind, the Doctor's like blind so his character is not stopping at all.
No, it's not. It doesn't hinder him whatsoever.
No, it doesn't.
What did you think of I guess the main threat was this bacteria. I mean, I thought it was a great idea, because we were saying the monks, they don't look like the type who are going to take the planet by force. And if anything, this pyramid was a distraction to what was actually going on miles and miles away, which was this enzyme of some kind that destroys every single living thing. I mean, the scene where Douglas and can I just say, I had a massive nostalgic yelp when I saw him, because he's Brian from My Parents Are Aliens, and that was one of my favourite shows. I mean, if you're a 90s kid, you watched My Parents Are Aliens.
I did.
Me and Liv did. I don't know about Baker, he's a little bit younger than us old folk.
I did.
But seeing him in Doctor Who just made me go, oh, I remember him, he was amazing.
That was Brian!
And therefore, seeing him perish in such a horrible way was tough to take. I mean, that was...
How creepy was like that, like, in his mouth formed up,
It's gross.
and then all of a sudden, orange, like, yellowy liquid came out. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
Thug
And
Monk
then you
done
just
it
imagine
again.
if that got out, and like if the entire Earth like did that would be disgusting.
Exactly. Again, it just made the monks seem completely unstoppable. Of course, the Doctor went there, and I thought the conclusion to this episode was absolutely fantastic as well. The Doctor goes in, of course. Let's just quickly have a word on was it Erica? Erica. A quick word on her. She was sort of, out of the whole supporting cast, she was probably the main supporting cast. I thought she was very good.
Yeah, I did as well.
Yeah, I did like her, but I do kind of, something doesn't sit right with me about the whole science lab enzyme bacteria thing, because I feel like it was just too convenient in a way that Douglas like put too much of whatever it was into the thing, like, and I feel like, I know it's obviously obviously fictional, but I feel like realistically being so careless and leaving both airlocks open and stuff just wouldn't really happen. It did feel a bit too convenient for me. I don't know about you two, but I don't know, it did feel a bit too forced a little bit for me.
Yeah, I can I can see what you mean. I mean,
I can.
at the time, I guess you could argue he was feeling ill. He was in a bit of a rush. This is me obviously trying to come up with an argument against that.
But something so significant of it as like this thing going into stage 2 or whatever, surely it would need to be double and triple checked and stuff. I don't know. That's probably one of the only issues that I have with this episode, is that just seemed a bit too easy.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, if anything, I think an issue that I have more so is how easily the Doctor and Nardole found that very place. I mean, when they were on the plane, they were discussing how many there were. There was like 100,000 or something, a couple 100,000, and they narrowed it down to 600 or 300. And yeah, it seemed quite clever that, you know, they turned all the cameras off. Let's find out which one was turned back on. But I found that was probably a little bit too convenient.
Yeah, and why would the monks have cameras on loads of other labs if they knew that it was just this one that was gonna
Yeah.
make?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's one of those things like that. It's not necessarily a massive flaw or even a plot hole, but it's just something we have to kind of accept is a thing. And obviously, at the end of the day, you can't have a perfect episode, and that's just something that we've got to live with.
Something you've just got to look past, really.
Yeah.
But of course, it led to the Doctor blowing it up. Fair enough. That's one way of destroying it, I guess. And he obviously gets trapped in there. And I think I saw a couple of tweets from you, Jacob, or something I saw from you after the episode, on how he got his blindness back and how it kind of came into the story. And for me personally, the fact that the pivotal moment in the story came down to his blindness, I thought was great, because I was contemplating how they were going to reveal that, how they were going to make it seem important. Was it going to play a main part in the story, or was it just going to be put in a throwaway line? But I don't think they could have done it better.
No, I couldn't.
You know, the way that he can only get out of this thing is if he puts this code in, he can't see it, therefore, and he's already on, like, over the comm with Bill, so he has to tell her because he could potentially die.
Yeah.
The other woman can't help him.
And Nardole can't help
Nardole can't help him. I think it was the perfectly executed reveal, because he revealed it to Bill, she got really upset, and that's what led her to confront the monks. So for me, I thought they could not have handled that better.
I agree.
What about you, Jacob? What was your issue? What was your thoughts on that?
I mean, for that scene with the Doctor being blind, and obviously that being quite a big problem, that the suspense in that scene was immense, really, because I was just like, I had no idea how he was going to get out of it. But I was a bit confused as how the monks were capable of having the power to restore the Doctor's eyesight. I'm not completely sure how they did that, especially when they weren't even with the Doctor. I don't know how they were able to suddenly be like, click their fingers and restore his eyesight. But apart from that, I did really like that scene. And I suppose there are certain ways that the Doctor could have like gone around it. Obviously, I did think about the whole mirror thing, but then we obviously got the situation of Erica not having her reading glasses, and I don't know if the sonic shades are capable of taking photos, but regardless of that, that was a really immense scene, I thought, because the Doctor was at risk of death, really. But yeah, what did you think, Liv?
Yeah, I loved it, and it worked well. But then again, and the part what got me was like the monks were in the pyramid, and there's a Doctor at somewhere else. So so how did that get his blindness back?
Yeah, that's what I had a problem with.
Yeah, again, it's something you've just got to look. I mean, I was sort of in the moment anyway. It's kind of when he got his sight back, I was kind of really happy with that. But I think you were caught up in the whole suspense of it. But like, I agree with you, Jacob, when you were talking about can the monks have that power, because I kind of think you don't want to make them seem powerful to the point where they can do anything and everything.
Yeah.
Because then when they are defeated, you're kind of putting yourself at risk of them being defeated in a sort of cop-out way, because if you build them up too much, then you've really got to defeat them in a big, epic way. And I know this probably sounds completely contradictory because we've just praised the monks for being absolutely unstoppable, but then there is the other side of it, like you say. Can they do absolutely everything? If they can turn the Doctor's vision on, then surely if they wanted to, they could turn it off. Surely they could turn anyone else's vision off.
They've got to have some limit, don't they?
Yeah, surely they could stop his heart. Surely, where does the line... Where do you draw the line with their power? Because if they can control a person's sense, then surely they could go, oh, if we want to do something, we'll turn off every person's sight on the planet so everyone's blind. Where do you draw the line on them?
Yeah.
But, getting his sight back was a fantastic ending, and led to that amazing moment with Bill. One character we've not spoke of this week, who we had high praise for last week, is Nardole. Have we not spoke about him because he was in the background of the story? What, do you still think he was good? Did that momentum that we were talking about continue for the both of you?
Jacob?
I mean, I think he was enjoyable as always. Not as always, but for Series 10, I thought he was quite enjoyable. He wasn't annoying to me, but I suppose he did take a bit of a backseat. But that allowed Bill to be a bit more present in this episode. But at the same time, he did kind of help the Doctor out a bit, and I don't know, he didn't feel like he was unnecessary by any means, and he did throw in a few funny lines, but I don't know, I don't think he was quite as prominent as in previous episodes, but I think he was still enjoyable. What about you two?
Well, I think like I was saying about 12, I think he raised the bar so high for himself last week.
Yeah.
You could kind of think, oh, he's not as good this week, but I still think he was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it says a lot when at the end, when I seen him on the floor collapsed, that I cared.
Yeah.
And if you'd have...
And shocked.
If that had happened at the start of the series, I'd have been cheering.
If that was in the Series 10 trailer, we'd all be celebrating that Nardole's dead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the fact that we were shocked, well, I was shocked and a bit like, oh God, everyone seems like, we've lost the military guys, Nardole's down, what's happening with Bill? It really made for a great climax, and I was genuinely shocked to see what would happen with Nardole.
Yeah.
This is obviously maybe delving too deep into the preview, but it's a shame that most of the climax was completely ruined by the next time trailer.
Yeah.
More on that in the preview.
Spoilerific.
We'll
it was.
leave the subs on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
A much better cliffhanger than the next time trailer gave us, because it kind of, So, anything else that any of you want to mention? Post-production, Jacob, anything worth, any points you want to make on direction, editing, any of them things that we kind of picked up on in Extremis?
Direction, great. Editing, great. Music, great.
I really like the music.
Everything was... It was actually quite a decent episode as a whole, really. I don't think I had many flaws against it at all. What about you? Did you pick up on anything in particular, or you same as me?
The part that I picked up on, and it was right back in the beginning when, when the Doctor said Doomsday.
Yeah.
I like that part. I'm sorry, but I did.
Doomsday?
Yeah, from the Russell Lever.
What, Series 2 episode?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a nostalgia. But the Doomsday Clock, we've not mentioned that. I thought that really added an extra edge to the story.
It did.
Yeah, because that's a real thing, and it was quite nice to see Doctor Who referencing some real life stuff.
Yeah, it gave there was something to building towards what the hell's going to happen when it hits 12. So again, really like that. So if that's everything, we will crack on with our conclusions. Who wants to go first?
Who went first last time? I can't remember.
I think I did.
Matthew can go first. I don't think he's been first.
Thank you very much. Well, my conclusion on Tapati Otwa. Tapati Otwa was a very solid second part, which was very much more easygoing and enjoyable than the previous story, being Extremis. It was really well paced, with the mystery behind the pyramid and the involvement of the military making the story feel a lot more important. I thought the monks were again brilliant, and their passive-aggressive attitude with taking over the world and killing people was really creepy. They generally felt unstoppable. The parallel plot was much more suited to this week's episode, with the supporting cast being great, and the ending made for a great climax, making the Doctor's blindness a simple but yet pivotal part in the story, with his emotional reveal to Bill leading into a great scene with her at the end. Again, this episode did its job perfectly and kept me completely invested in this 3-part arc. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Ooh, that's great. I agree with you.
I think we're going to leave Liv's till last because hers might shock you.
Okay, I'll
Jacob,
go next then. So, this week's episode was another enjoyable watch from Series 10, and it developed the plot significantly since Extremis, which left me a bit of a meh. I really like the monks, obviously, especially Thug Monk.
Of course.
And despite not knowing the true intentions of the monks, I think this actually adds to the storyline quite nicely, because obviously we've got next week's episodes to find out what their intentions are. They seem to be a really intelligent species that appear to be a struggle to fight against, which does pose a real threat to humanity. Peter Harness's use of the parallel plot structure was used much more efficiently in this episode, unlike in Extremis, and it wrapped up quite well with the two plots coming together with a good conclusion. I like how Bill played a bigger part in this episode than recently, as I hoped for, and Nardole was also quite more enjoyable. The Doctor's blindness was used really well, and the threat in the last couple of scenes was quite immense. And although the monks appear to have fixed blindness, it does look like next week the Doctor might be blind again, which I quite look forward to seeing how it all pans out. But as a whole, I'm going to go with the same rating as you, Matthew, and give it an 8 out of 10.
Oh, snap. Snap back. So then, 2 8s. Olivia, please don't let us down.
Right. My conclusion to this episode is that I loved it from start to finish. The pacing was fantastic, and the supportive cast were brilliant. From the military guys, Erica and Douglas, what's his name?
Yeah, O'Brien.
It all worked. The monks were fantastic. They're so creepy, and like I said, I also truly saw that the Bill and Doctor had their best episodes so far. I love the pyramid work, the bacteria worked. I'm going to give it a 9.
A 9?
What? Yeah.
Yes.
Thought
my
best
episode of Series 10 so far. I loved it.
Wow.
Favourite story so far. Yeah.
And I also want to say that Series 10 so far, I am loving. I really am.
Yeah, it's really good.
It is. I'm happy.
I think there was more relief in that than
But Liv gave
happiness.
it episode a 9.
I think that's the first time you've gave a higher rating or the highest rating in a review.
Yeah.
So yeah, wow, positive all round again. Series 10 continues to go at a very, very good pace. Very, very enjoyable. Just to let you guys know, of course, if you didn't see it on our Facebook page earlier, due to time constraints and other issues, etc., because we are all very, very busy right now and struggling to get together to do reviews, the best way for us all to get our opinions out to you guys, well, me and Liv are definitely going to be doing reviews together. Jacob, hopefully too, depending on his exams, etc. James will be uploading his own mini reviews separately on the channel for now, and also stay till the very, very end of his Pyramid at the End of the World review, because he's got a massive announcement to make. So look out for that. Other than that, though, another great episode. And I am guessing all three of us will be back for the preview of episode 8, The Lie of the Land, which will be very interesting because
I look forward to
the next time trailer, I think, is even more baffling than it was for this one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have a lot of thoughts and theories and things to say about that next time trailer.
Indeed we will. But until then, that was our review of Tapati Otwa, positives all round. And until next time, guys, have a good bank holiday weekend, and we'll see you next week. So then, guys, there you have it, our review of The Pyramid at the End of the World. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel for previews and reviews of every single episode from Doctor Who Series 10, and do comment in the section below your thoughts on this episode, and we'll be back for our preview of Episode 8, The Lie of the Land, in the middle of next week. Hopefully that'll be up for you guys on Wednesday, and of course, if you haven't already, also do go and check out James's separate mini review for this episode, which will be becoming a weekly thing for the foreseeable future. And as we said, do stick around for the end of that video to find a very major announcement. But until then, guys, have a good weekend, and I'll see you next week.